Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Write an Adventure, our ongoing live stream where we are creating a full campaign in real time from scratch, including our own customized domain of dread. Uh, I'm RJ Kerr, I'm your host, as always, and tonight we are going to be picking up where we left off on Monday. So, the situation where we find ourselves in at the moment is we have we are building out a series of adventures where the characters are looking for this lost artifact of power. They've recognized at this point that this artifact is the key for them to escape this domain of dread. It is what they need to find if they're going to free themselves at all. And so we've built out a number of investigative scenes, places where characters can go and find clues that lead to more other investigative scenes and eventually let them piece together the location of the artifact itself, of this lost artifact itself. And so right now we're building out some of the conflict in each of those. And one of those is kind of our standard sort of dungeon environment that we're using to really kind of introduce a major villain, the one who is imprisoned in this domain of dread, Ovander, our elemental villain. And so we're building out a little 5-room dungeon for that. We've been working on that for a couple sessions now, really kind of piecing that together. And so we're going to jump back into that without too much further ado. That said, this is an interactive stream. So if you have your own thoughts, opinions, ideas as we go along, please feel free to just toss them in the chat. I love hearing that stuff from you guys. You all come up with some of the most creative content that we have in this campaign already. So please send me your thoughts and opinions on that as we work through this. Even if you're watching the recording, still love to hear what you thought. So right now, let's kind of do a kind of quick assessment of where we are in our little 5-room dungeon here. Because again, we're looking for a small dungeon that we can play over the course of a single session because it's just one of several investigative scenes, a place where the characters can get some clues. Specifically by confronting this treasure hunter they're there to find. And so we came up with a bank of creatures that we might use. We have gone ahead and started fleshing out some random encounters, but we've already kind of put our 5 areas together: our entry, our setback, our puzzle, our BBEG, and our reward. And we've put sort of the barest bones kind of notes for each of those in there. And I will be honest with you, if I was running this just for myself, this would be just about enough for me to roll with it. In fact, this might be the minimum of what I kind of needed to run a theater of the mind version of this from my own imagination. Because I've got the encounters are spelled out, I've got the bones of the puzzle that's in here, I've got the basis of the conflict around with the BBEG, and I have sort of a personality for the treasure hunter in mind. But that being said, that's not what we do here on this channel. We're not worried about necessarily what I've got locked up in here and what I would imagine myself. We want to make some of that explicit. So we're going to go ahead and continue building this out as though I was writing it for someone else. So let's start by giving this these rooms some of their own personality, a little bit of more than just their their encounters. And you'll forgive me a second here. I have a cat who's decided to join me. This is Gizmo. He is my familiar as far as I'm concerned, but he has decided to become very interested in what we're doing here tonight, and so we'll see if he contributes at all. All right. So, you know what, Gizmo? Probably not the time. I'll up with you later. Okay. So, let's see here. One of the things that we need to get in here is some clues as to the solution of the puzzle that we created. And the puzzle was the very last thing we built last on Monday, where we were talking about it being sort of like a brass door that features a series of interlocking rings, and that each ring bears a different assortment of planar objects on it. The rings are then kind of turned. And so the idea being that you have to turn them into the proper order so that they're properly oriented, representing the relationships between these different planes with each other. And we settled on there being three rings around the material plane. One of them holding having the Feywild and the Shadowfell on it. Another one having the elemental planes of air, water, earth, and fire. And then the third one having the planes of Elysium, Limbo, Hades, and Mechanus on it, representing law, chaos, good, and evil uh, in their place. And so when the characters encounter this will be all mixed up. But this isn't information that they're necessarily going to know right off of the right out of the gate. This isn't stuff that we can depend on our players knowing the appropriate orientation for. So we want to put some clues around. And when I thought about this, what I thought might be a cool place to kind of drop the solution to this is actually all the way back in the entrance. Um, and I had an idea that since we're kind of imagining this place as a series of tall towers that are now in ruins, connected by these bridges that go between tower to tower, the railings, and they're windswept, and it's stormy here. And there's all kinds of elements at work opposing the players and some undead to boot. Um, that would be kind of cool if the first room, our entryway into this little 5 room dungeon here, uh, that has the conflict with the ice mephits and steam mephits that we've reskinned to call them storm mephits. If it has a room with kind of a domed ceiling on it, and that there's an old mural painted up there that has the solution to the puzzle on it, that has the exact order in which all of these planes are kind of situated with each other. And we were working off of a graphic pulled out of, I think it was page 303 of the 2014 Player's Handbook that inspired this puzzle. And so I imagine that that same graphic in probably with more artistic license to it there has been painted on the ceiling of this domed room. And it's there just kind of out in the open. And if the players were to look up and to examine, they would find the solution to the puzzle. But let's be honest, how often do your players look up when they're not expecting something to drop down on them? So let's go ahead and add this into here. Let's say um, this room is the upper story of a crumbling tower. The domed ceiling is mostly intact and features a ancient mural depicting the various planes of existence in relation to the material plane which resides at the center. And let's capitalize material plane just so that we can find it a little bit easier. Excellent. We can put a little note to ourselves. We could say the characters aren't likely to realize it yet, but this mural is the solution to the puzzle in area 3. We get our first comment here. So let's hear. Jonathan Frost says, describing that the ceiling and walls are covered with faded murals, but the one on the dome is still mostly untouched might be a hint. Yeah, that's a good idea. That we could have other murals around in this room that depict celestial objects. Maybe there's sort of a starry night painted on the walls as well, and that kind of deal. Let's add that in. Let's talk about the peeling paint and all of that. And let's see, that should be an ancient mural. The walls also feature murals, though they are less, they are in worse condition. Images of celestial bodies and cosmic designs are obscured by peeling paint and cloying mold. Great. So we've got a description of our room here. I'm going to put that description above the encounter. I just prefer it that way. And we've got a description of our first room here. We've got the encounter outlaid in here. Maybe we should give an attitude probably to these methods. Are they immediately hostile? Are they playful? Are they mischievous? We might giving them an attitude gives our characters a little something more to play with in here. It might give them a way to get through this without necessarily causing a combat encounter, although we've kind of leaning towards that's the design here, since this is designed to be kind of a one session, two at the most kind of dungeon. So let's say we've got ice and storm methods in here, and what might those elementals want? We know methods tend to be curious. If we go straight from like the monster manual sort of description, they tend to be curious and mischievous little tricksters. So maybe they are prepared to play pranks on the play pranks and harass the characters, and if the characters sort of defend themselves, they become hostile. Let's see here. So we might say 2 ice methods and 4 storm methods inhabit this space. They are bored and brimming with mischief, which they immediately direct at the characters upon arrival. If the characters try to defend themselves, the methods become hostile. Great. Okay. Cool. So we've got some tools to work with here in our very first room in our entryway for our nice little low difficulty encounter. We've started laying some track for our adventure. And excuse me, Gizmo. Hello. Good to see you. Not now. All right. Sorry about the interruption there. Okay, so let's continue on to our setback room here. Okay, so we've got 1 gargoyle and 3 skeletons to protect a windswept railing-free bridge that spans the gap between 2 crumbling towers. As the characters approach, a lightning strike animates the skeletons, giving them a persistent electrical charge. So we've already kind of got an attitude for the gargoyle and the skeletons, what they want, what they're doing here. So we don't need to do too much there. We even have a little bit of description, but let's build out on that here. Let's say description, and let's say this broad balcony stretches into a um, a weather-beaten bridge that spans the gap. I already have spans the gap. That extends to a similar balcony on another tower. The railings here have long since been lost to the elements, and storm clouds gather up above. Cool. A little bit of flavor there to go along with our encounter. Let's continue on to our puzzle here. We're making good progress. And to be honest with you, when you're kind of doing this for yourself, this doesn't take as long. One, because you don't necessarily need as much detail, but two, because, well, frankly, you're just writing down, your own thoughts on this, and not you're kind of this verbal thinking that I'm doing this thinking out loud that I'm doing. You're kind of doing all in your head, and it'll go by a lot faster. So let's see. So the puzzle room. Let's imagine this room, because right now we've got this idea of this like brass door set into it, and we need that for the puzzle. But what else is unique about this room? What kind of sets it apart? We had, or I should say, I think it was, yeah, Jonathan had the idea last time of an orrery in this room, which I'm almost certainly mispronouncing. And so it was really the idea was having it as part of the puzzle, but maybe it's just here as part of kind of the decoration. Maybe there's a large orrery in the center of this room here, and we've got constellation charts and star maps that were painted on the walls here. And so maybe this space is set up almost like it was an observatory. Maybe maybe there was a panel in the domed ceiling here that's long since kind of like caved in and collapsed, and so it's exposed to the elements and it's kind of raining down inside. But at one point there was a telescope in here or something along those lines, maybe. Um, then again, perhaps we want to save that kind of grandeur for the BBEG. Maybe we just put an orrery in here. Old charts. And Jonathan says, "Oh yeah, good call on that. Incorporate the puzzle into the theme of the room." Yeah, yeah. I like to do that. It makes it feel a little more organic, like it's a little more in place. You certainly don't want characters to miss that there's a puzzle here potentially, but we also don't want to just put a big highlighter around it that it says, you know, this is the important thing in the room. Focus in on this. Unless, of course, there's something else we're trying to hide. Little misdirection sometimes can be a lot of fun, but don't overuse it. We don't want to overuse it. So let's go with the orrery in here. And so let's say an enormous brass orrery dominates the center of this room. It, I'm going to say, despite its age, it continues to track the movement of celestial bodies. As they turn about a central sphere. Let's see here. Ooh, what if it's a central crystalline sphere? And we can have kind of a oblique reference to Spelljammer in here. Um, that could be fun. um, and it turns about a central crystalline sphere. And the fact that it's still working even after all of this time, I think, is a kind of a cool, creepy element to it. That everything else is very much aged, and yet this machine is still ticking away. Uh, Again, maybe a little misdirection here, getting the players to think that it has some significance in the space other than just being decoration. We can say the walls were once covered in star charts and diagrams, but these have long since succumbed to mold and wet. Now the walls feature only their tattered remains over darkly painted stone. Okay. Cool. All right. We definitely want to put a little more treasure in here, I think, with this puzzle. The 2 potions of lightning resistance are very useful for the BBEG fight, but we want to have a little extra in here. And so to do that, I'm going to turn to the new DMG, which I think which has some directions on or some suggestions, I should say, on putting treasure into adventures. Um, that I think is a little more straightforward than the 2014 DMG. Um, so having thematic treasure here, but it also makes a distinction between individual treasure. So that's kind of like the small amount of treasure that characters would find in the pockets of creatures and what have you, in the bellies of beasts and that sort of thing, and then hoard treasure. And so when they had discover a large cache, we could do something along those lines. And so maybe we want to put something with some monetary wealth in there. I think. Let's see. This is a good place for some Arcana themed treasure. We already have some magic items in here, but let's see that. We definitely want to put some stuff that's just worth money. And I'm leaning towards gems for this, but we could go in a couple different directions. So let's check out chapter 7 as suggested. And again, for copyright reasons, I'm not going to show this on the screen here. I really don't need to steal intellectual property. So let's see here, chapter 7. Ooh, let's see. Let's see some of our themes. Arcana, gemstones plus magic items of an eldritch or esoteric nature is the theme for that. So gemstones make sense to me. They talked about kind of a horde level for CR 0 through 4 on this is comes out to about 500 gold pieces on average. Maybe we're gonna put that much in there. Maybe we don't. Maybe we want to save a little bit. Let's put 300 in here, and then we can do another horde for the BBEG. And so let's say puzzle 1, which should be once solved, reveals a cache of 2 potions of lightning resistance and a collection of assorted gemstones. And let's say that they're worth 10 GP each. So we're going to say of 30 assorted gemstones. It gives us 300. So you have kind of a pile of various gems in here. Maybe they're separated by different types and have been intended to be used as spell components in here. It kind of gives us a little eldritch feel to that. It's in line with the Arcana, I think. All right. We're getting close to our time here, so let's go ahead and let's think about some of the description for the room where we encounter our BBEG. Here, I think we want, the big dilapidated telescope that is kind of broken down, and maybe the big lenses have fallen out of it, and some are more or less intact, but they kind of refract light around the room and bend, energy and create sort of bright and dark spots in there, and I think give it kind of give it a feeling of decay and of Arcana long lost. It's kind of what I've got in my head for this as we work on it. Of course, let me know if you've got some other thoughts, but I like this room being very much broken down and still guarded by these elemental creatures. The room having once been of great importance. So, hearing no objections, let's do that. Okay, so let's say this circular room has a tall, domed ceiling with a gaping hole set into one side. At the center of the room is the wreckage of a colossal, let's say, a colossal brass telescope. We used a lot of brass in here, but it feels thematic to me that there was a lot of brass used in this facility here. I think is just kind of helps tie some of these pieces together and make them feel a little more cohesive. They're all made of the same kind of material and metals. The wreckage of a colossal brass telescope that now slumps like a mighty, let's say like a once mighty, now decaying derelict. The lenses lie scattered and shattered on the floor, leaving behind huge chunks of light bending glass. That's not a gaping hole, it's a gaping hole. There we go. Light bending glass. Okay. We have our let's give this room a little more grandeur to it. Let's give it something else that really bears protecting. Of course, this telescope would have been of immense value. But let's let's say the remnants of, and I am misspelling that. The remnants. Come on. There we go. The remnants of ancient vessels, of ancient beakers, retorts, and other vessels collect dust on tables and benches that line the room. So this is a room for experimentation yeah, a room for experimentation and for the advancement of knowledge and understanding of the cosmos, as it were. Terrific. So that brings us then to our time. So I think this is, oh, Gizmo off the keyboard. I think this is a good time to go ahead and put a pin in it. Thank you so much for watching with me tonight. I always appreciate the input, and I appreciate uh, how engaged everybody is on these sorts of things. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for showing up. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. All of that helps the channel grow, helps me stay motivated to keep doing all this kind of stuff. And if you ever want to check out one of my games, see how I run the actual sessions, or check out one of my original one-shots and see if all this writing advice I'm giving you actually works, you can find my content, my professional paid games, on startplaying.games /GM/RJ Kerr. And that'll take you straight to my content, and you can jump in one of those games and see if I know what I'm talking about and have some fun. All right. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I will check you all on Monday. We'll see you then.